colleague Laura Jays now. And the women's budget, including a women's statement, the first time since the 90s that there's been a standalone statement on something, on one specific issue, this time on women's issues. What did you make of it?
We've never seen this in the budget package, and now we have our very own little book, and it's worth $3.4 billion. It's broken down into three very neat parts. Economic security worth $1.9 billion, safety $1.1, and health at $350 million. Now, economic security, $1.7 billion of that is in childcare. That doesn't commence until 2022. It increases the subsidy for a second child, so it frees up about 300,000 hours a week for women mainly. In a productivity sense, this budget assumes it will deliver dividends in the form of $1.5 billion boost to GDP. Now, 250,000 families are expected to benefit. Part of this economic security package as well is $100 million spent on smaller projects such as Women in STEM, grants for women in leadership, also Indigenous women in business. Safety, $1.1 billion under this umbrella, and $500 million of that is for women and children who are the victims of family, domestic and sexual violence. $261 million for frontline services in that partnership, but it is a partnership with the states. $165 million, this is new. This is what we know from the budget papers. It hadn't been leaked out before. This is a 2-year program for a $5,000 one-off payment for women who are forced to flee their homes. Now, this will be $1,500 in cash and then $3,500 for goods and services to pay for a rental bond, but it's only a 2-year trial. Now, let's look at health. This is a smaller amount being spent here, about $350 million. It goes to the National Women's Health Strategy. It goes to maternal, sexual and reproductive health, infant research, stillbirth research and diagnostics too. The focus there is on issues that have long been seen as private suffering. It goes some way to lifting the taboo around issues such as endometriosis and stillbirth. Now, as we mentioned before, this is the first time that women have had their own booklet. It shows us that the government is acutely aware that women are both a political problem and an economic solution in many ways. It's largely a rebranding exercise on one note, on a great big banner we're seeing in this budget, Women, this is for you. Now, childcare is not just a women's issue, or at least it shouldn't be. It's a family issue. The means test, of course, is based on the family income. Childcare is an economic one, so more women in the workforce means a more productive economy. This budget does address the hip pocket costs, but not the growing costs of the taxpayer, and does not do anything to stop childcare centres raising fees, and it can't be left to the competition. One final note to mention in the new parts of this budget is the $5,000 payment that we just went through. This is for women and children fleeing domestic violence, and this is great. It's practical and it's sensible, but the reality of how this works is important. Women can only get their hands on this money with help from frontline services. So frontline services have been given a boost here too, $260 million. Overall, women's safety groups called for $1 billion a year. They're getting $1 billion over 4 years. So KG, it falls just short.